let's get started. To put it this way, Mario is not just the face of Nintendo, one of the biggest video game companies in the world. He is the literal face of video games. Call him the Mickey Mouse of gaming, if you will. There is not a single gaming mascot that even comes close to how iconic he is. Not Sonic, not Crash, not Master Chief, not Mega Man, Link, Pikachu, or Kirby. Without the existence of Mario appearing in 1981 in the arcade game Donkey Kong, or making his 1985 debut in his first game ever, Super Mario Bros., along with the additional inception of the Nintendo Entertainment System, video gaming would never be the same. And as a fellow gamer, Mario has been a part of my gaming life from my young childhood all the way to the present. From traditional platformers to sports spin-offs to the game series that ruins friendships, to racing, to open world games, to fighting games, crossovers, and so on and so on. Because of this sole character's cultural impact, there was a time where Nintendo ruled over the entire industry. Obviously, those days have long gone by, but there was a period in time where Nintendo had their own cartoon series, their own cereal, their own sodas, even costumes for Movie Bob to wear. Eventually, Nintendo attempted to take the hailed plumber to the big screen for the first time ever. In his very first full-length live-action film, starring John Leguizamo as Luigi and Bob Hoskins as Mario, who would later describe the whole filming experience to be a freaking nightmare. Yeah, it was pretty bad. So as you can probably see, Nintendo hasn't been exactly lucky with the Super Mario license when it comes to theatrical releases. But precisely 30 years later, Nintendo decided to team up with the black hole of all things animated, that being Illumination Animation, to summon a 92-minute feature animated film in the form of the Super Mario Bros. Movie. Even though the trailers didn't make the film to appear as the Mephistophelian piece of celluloid that I dreaded it was going to be, and noticing how divided critics and audiences were with this movie, to this very day might I add, I still went into this movie with an open mind despite my obvious grievances towards Illumination, and I wanted to see what they and Nintendo had in store. Well, as a lifelong fan of the Mario games and as one who reviews movies with nostalgia no longer getting in the way of my criticisms, the Super Mario Bros. Movie is really mediocre. It's an ordinary, safe, animated movie, and in the fullness of time, is a lazily written one that exhibits the worst motifs of animated films, but still has some surprisingly good parts about it that are somewhat enough to balance the weaknesses of the film. So, with that being said, let's go! Sorry. The movie stars the video game dynamic duo of Mario and Luigi, the two Italian plumbers who have aspirations of starting a plumbing business of their own. While trying to fix a pipe burst in the sewers of Brooklyn to hopefully get a name for themselves, they end up coming across a gigantic green pipe that ends up getting them sucked in and separated into different mythical places. With Luigi not having the best luck in the world, Mario is transported into the Mushroom Kingdom that is ruled by one Princess Peach, with the goal of uniting the realms against the ruthless King Bowser and his army of Koopas. With the determination to reunite with his brother, who is in Bowser's grasp, Mario sets out with Peach to defeat the demonic turtle once and for all. So, for starters, obviously, I have not been a fan of Illumination's work as far as animation goes. I never liked their inconsistent frame rates with characters, their character designs never stand out in any way, and even their backdrops are stale and boring compared to studios such as Disney and DreamWorks. But here was the thing, I cannot believe I'm saying this, and I'm being dead serious when I do. This is hands down the best animation that Illumination has ever crafted to screen by a country mile, and it's not even close. And looking at who they're partnered with, you can absolutely see why. The character models for the humans, the creatures, the secondary characters, and the villains are lustrous, glossy, and full of strong detail. The frame rate is consistent 100%. The backgrounds and the locales are gorgeous to look at, from the Mushroom Kingdom to the rainforest terrain of the Congo jungle to the shiny Rainbow Road. They're visually splendid, and how the animators handled the effects of the power-ups in the game, such as the Fire Flower and the Super Mushrooms, are pretty interesting, and they are believable to this film's world. Illumination, I don't know how you did this or how you were able to pull something like this off, but if you keep this up, Your animation will look better with each passing installment or film that you make. When I saw the voice acting lineup on a poster, the first time I saw it, I was like, you have got to be kidding me. I, along with everyone else in the world, were completely baffled and bewildered at how misguided the choices were. Shockingly, the voice cast isn't all too bad. In fact, some of them are quite alright. Anya Taylor-Joy is suitable as the regal Princess Peach. Charlie Day is decent as Luigi. Keegan-Michael Key's voice makes up for a very impressive Toad, and I don't think I'm gonna be in the minority when I say that Jack Black is having a blast in his role and is fully committed into taking in this over-the-top role as the king of the Koopas himself, Bowser. Counter to this, you have some voice acting roles which are quite questionable. See also Seth Rogen as Donkey Kong. He's just Seth Rogen playing Seth Rogen, pretending to be the Donkey Kong character. But here comes the moment that you've all been waiting for. What about Chris Pratt's role as Mario? Despite the fact that the choice of him being picked for this role is the most baffling out of all of the casting decisions, did I eventually warm up to his role? Did I give in to his portrayal of Mario, and do I think that it's not as bad as I was led to believe? No! I'll say it once and I'll repeat it another 150 times. Chris Pratt is miscast for this role. Every time I'm listening to his performance in this movie, it's like Chris Pratt is in a recording studio or on a table read, and he's just saying the lines rather than actually delivering a performance. There are times where he states a line where he is in peril, and by the time that you hear it, it's like the directors didn't even bother to do a second take, and they were just like, you know what? We're just gonna take what we get, we're moving on to the next scene. In fact, the actual voice for Mario, Charles Martinet, makes a cameo in this movie. And you're probably asking yourself, why wasn't he the voice for Mario in this? This all boils down to what I said about Ice Age 5 way back when. Why can't you just hire actual qualified voice actors who can put in so much to the characters that people have adored for generations instead of just certain celebrities who can only do so little? There's no reason for why Seth Rogen needs to play Donkey Kong, and there's no reason why Mario needs to be played by Chris Pratt, aside from name recognition and nothing else. I know that it sounds like I'm approaching in the negatives, and I'm trying as best that I can to be fair with this. But I gotta get this across. I fully understand that Mario doesn't have a complicated lore, and it has one of the most basic plot structures of any video game out there. It's as simple as this. You're a plumber, go and save the princess. But when you are a writer, you still have the capability of pulling off something good to a game that has very little plot. But as far as story is concerned, the movie runs very fast. Not in a way where it's really well paced, like making a 2-hour movie feel like an hour and 40. It's fast in the sense that it feels like they have to rush from plot point A to B without any kind of natural flow of events just for the sake of getting themselves into the next colorful set piece. Basically, a bunch of stuff just happens for the sake of things happening. Characters just come along to the journey for no reason other than the fact that we need the plot to progress. Something would happen that you would think would have the characters finally have time to grow and develop with each other to share some kind of chemistry, and then all of a sudden the movie goes, all right, that's quick and over with, let's hurry on over to the next scene. None of our main heroes learn anything new about each other, what their flaws are, or even certain thematic topics such as brotherly love are absolutely wasted in a script that is only concerned about showing you the Super Mario Brothers stuff that people gush over. Coinciding with the sporadic on-rails narrative, the characterizations of your stars are pretty inconsistent, woefully developed, and full of missed opportunities. Let's have Bowser being the first. Seeing how there have been multiple iterations of the character, some making him a tyrannical Koopa, and another making him a hopeless romantic and a goofball that has unrequited love for Peach. Fine, I will accept this notion and I will go with this. My problem, however, is not that Bowser simps over Peach. My problem is that the movie makes Bowser too much of a goofball, to the point where the threat of Bowser being taken seriously as a villain plummets. At the very beginning, we get the impression that Bowser is a threatening behemoth that pillages over kingdoms and nothing stands in his way, including his army and the amount of power that he has just so he can acquire the superstar, which is something that is known to have unbelievable power. The reason why he wants to conquer the world and grab the superstar is to impress Peach and ask for her hand in marriage. You know, instead of having him take over territories to where it bolsters his megalomaniacal ego, in addition to wanting to marry Peach personally. Even when interrogating Luigi, he asks him if Peach thinks that Mario is cute. There is a way that you can execute this better, where you can still apply the monstrous intimidation to make Bowser a much more threatening and memorable villain, while making him secretly have romantic or lustful feelings for Peach behind closed doors, rather than just shouting out his feelings for Peach in public and having every single action that he does all about her. Anything would have been better instead of this movie going out of its way to make Bowser even more pathetic and less threatening by pretending to ask Peach in marriage with a Kamek dressing up as her and him doing a embarrassing, cringy, blackboard scratching musical number. And we're still meant to take him seriously. Luigi gets sidelined for the majority of the movie and spends most of his time in a prison cell with the NPCs of the Mario universe. And by the time he's given his moment to shine, it comes out of left field and it's not satisfying at all. And then you get to the characterization of Mario. The first time we see Mario trying to get to a house in time in Brooklyn while doing his plumbing job, Mario is extremely skilled, and he does an excellent job at navigating his surroundings and even climbing and avoiding obstacles like he does in the games. Later on, in a training montage in Peach's Palace, and even after the training where he goes to fight Donkey Kong in the Congo Arena, it's like he forgot how to do anything that he was good previously and spends the majority of the time acting like a Smash Brothers punching bag. Even when he gets very good at the training montage, when he's about to reach the finish line, the film has to make him fail just for the sake of just having the audience laugh. The thing with Mario's character is that he doesn't achieve things because of his prior experiences or his training. Even when you get to the third act of the movie and he starts being ridiculously good as he was in the first half, it's like, it just comes out of nowhere, especially since he spends the majority of the second act being a dim-witted piñata. Every single ounce of victory is either because of sheer plot convenience or the fact that Peach hands it to him on a silver platter. Speaking of famous damsels in distress, there is nothing wrong with Peach being able to hold her own, doing whatever she can to save her kingdom and its people, or helping Mario out every once in a while. But when you have her be so good at everything she does with her unstoppable expertise, her high-flying combat, and her fathomless knowledge, to the point she can single-handedly take down any enemy in her path, including the main villain, that it makes you ask, why can't she just do everything in the movie all by herself? It essentially kind of renders Mario not as a reluctant hero to save the day, but as a plot convenience in his own movie. There are some attempted moments of character development in the movie between Mario and Peach to where they try to learn stuff about their worlds, and Mario states that instead of having them as enemies, they have turtles as pets, and she kind of finds that fascinating. There could have been something that could not only enhance their friendship a little bit more, but in certain cases in the movie, where it can show Peach having to wrestle with the internal urge of wanting to explore more in the real world, or even having the slightest possibility of wanting to return home to see her parents again. And the kind of stuff that I mentioned that could possibly boost her character or the character development in this movie never happens in the film. Going back to being fair to the movie, the score by Brian Tyler is terrific, paying honorable homage to the Mario games, especially towards the end credit sequence, where it's basically a medley of all the iconic levels in all of the previous Mario games that came before. The soundtrack, on the other hand, I hate so dang much. When a soundtrack is involved, sometimes a certain song would be used intelligently in the way that it fits the context or the tone of the movie. In the Super Mario Bros. Movie, it's like the filmmakers got together in a round table and went, hey, how can we get the parents involved in a movie that is designed for either kids or fans of the games? I know! Let's put in a bunch of songs like Holding Out for a Hero in a training montage, a scene where they go around the Congo jungle while Aha's Take on Me is playing in the background. Thunderstruck by AC/DC will be playing during a Mario Kart customization montage, and Mr. Blue Sky, that is played by Electro-like Orchestra, will be played towards the very end of the movie. Why not just do that rather than just putting in our own orchestral songs by Brian Tyler just so we can compensate for those scenes happening? Now, what about sequences? As far as they go, one of the ones that I really liked was the set piece involving Luigi getting chased by the Dry Bones army. It sets up the tone very well, and it does an excellent job at making the Dry Bones very scary as opposed to how they are portrayed in the games. And the Rainbow Road scene is pretty exciting until you realize that the scene comes at the expense of a cheap reference that fans of a particular franchise or game series are very familiar with. Remember this despicable friendship-destroying device known as the Blue Shell, where it travels all the way to the player in first place and stuns them in a gigantic explosion? In this movie, after a Koopa has been defeated by Mario, he turns into a blue shell and ends up destroying a portion of the Rainbow Road and sending Donkey Kong and Mario into the ocean below. Which brings up the question, why didn't they surprise him with that from the very beginning? That seems like a pretty darn good way of eliminating Mario, capturing Peach and the entire Congo army, leaving the entire action scene completely pointless. And the final climax, much like a bunch of stuff in this movie, lacks any kind of stakes whatsoever. And because of how OP the characters are, how weak the villain is, and how the plot moves at such an abnormal pace, you don't feel a sense of dread or drama thinking that our characters are going to lose or will submit to the rule of Bowser. But enough about the flaws, what about the Easter eggs? You have the ringtone that sounds like the Nintendo GameCube, you have the 90s Mario rap number that was used for Mario and Luigi's plumbing advertisements, you have Mario playing Kid Icarus on the NES in the Mario universe, which is odd, and then you have Baby Mario and Luigi, which makes you ask, did they always wear the same uniforms ever since they were little infants? I know that there was a bunch of references and Easter eggs that I'm obviously missing here, but really, at the end of the day, I don't think it matters. The Super Mario Bros. Movie is like the off-brand Fruity Pebbles of animated films. It's colorful and it looks well, but when you get right down to it, you realize you just ate a bland bowl of food coloring, sugar, and fried rice. The film isn't without its saving grace, and I'm giving credit where credit is due, but as a movie that millions have paid to see, this movie is full of references and meaningless Easter eggs, with a vacuous story and characters with inconsistent characterization that by the time you finished watching the movie, you feel like you just watched a 93-minute advertisement than an actual film. And no amount of people complaining to me to leave this film alone because it's simply a kid's movie will ever sway me otherwise. Some of the best animated movies that have come out this decade and in the decade before have already proved that argument moot and will still stand up to the test of time, while the Super Mario Bros. Movie will be forgotten about within like 2 years. It's not a game changer, it's a meh, Mario. My name is Luke Nukem, and you, my friends, have been blown away. What the? Come on!